Darren Ganji here for Sim Racing Tonight. We got two more hardware reviews for you. We got the G25 SLI, which is from CXC Simulations, and then we also have the Progressive Brake Mod from Nixim. And this is just basically, it looks like a little eraser. I remember things like this from back in grammar school and high school, stuff like that. It looked like an eraser, but basically what it is, it's a piece of rubber that fits inside the spring, inside the pedals for the G25. So going to test both of those out for you here tonight, and why don't we start by taking F179 for a quick spin. Got the McLaren ready here at Zandvoort, so why don't we start by showing you the G25 SLI and how it lights up. Shows there I'm in first gear. There's the revs, shift the light indicator, so here we go.
Designed as an in-wheel display for the Logitech G25 steering wheel, the G25 SLI, or shift light indicator, adds a Formula One style LED RPM and gear indicator. Made of 3K high-gloss carbon fiber twill, the SLI weighs only 100 grams to ensure virtually no force feedback performance loss. There are currently plugins available for the top two racing simulations. R-Factor and Live for Speed are covered, and they're also working on getting them for the Simbin games, as well as NASCAR 2003. The unit is sold as plug and play. The only thing that's not plug and playable about it is you have to drop the plugins directly into the folder inside the game you're racing with. Once you do that, the game recognizes it and it works flawlessly from there on out without further adjustments. The rev lights are adjustable by editing a text file so you can have them light up at certain intervals within the RPM range. There's a readme on how to do it on the CD. Installation took about 15 minutes, and all you need is the 4mm hex wrench I just mentioned. Something to be aware of though, by installing this or any other mod to your G25, and I honestly didn't read the warranty material from Logitech, but I would imagine that anytime you take apart the unit and or add modifications to it, it's going to void your warranty. During my interview about the Motion Pro 2 simulator, Chris Considine of CXC Simulations also told me about how he came up with the idea for the G25 SLI.
We wanted to bring a product that anyone could get, and it would bring a lot of value to their home simulator setup, no matter what it is. So we started with the G25 SLI, and the whole idea was to take something that was very much looked like it came right off of a race car. So not only looked great, but had a lot of functionality, was super simple to install. So we started first with the G25 SLI because it figured, it seemed like the best shot, for the first one.
Pretty much the most popular wheel out there.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It's a great wheel.
It is.
So we wanted to make that really easy to install. We were aiming for a 5-minute installation with no tools other than the one we provided, and I think we achieved that.
Yeah, you did.
And we wanted to make the instructions real simple, the whole support process, software, everything, as simple and painless and easy as possible.
Now we're going to talk about the installation of the G25 SLI. It actually was pretty painless. You got to be careful though. There's some delicate wires in there that you could sever if you're not careful with it. But basically, all you got to do is you got to take these 6 Allen bolts out here, and then I just left my steering wheel installed. I didn't actually even remove it here. But take the 6 Allens, drop the steering wheel off, and then you drop the SLI into place, and you got to actually put it between those 2 wires I was talking about, making sure you're really careful with it. And then mount everything back in place, making sure that you don't crimp the wires as you're mounting the wheel back in place. Put the 6 bolts back in. And then actually the other thing you got to do is when you're installing the cable here, the cord, it comes with some anchors. I'm only just using one, which seems to be fine, and a zip tie. And you got to make sure, you want to test it to make sure you have just the right amount of slack. Too much slack, and it's going to could bind up here and mess with your shifting on the paddles. Too little slack, you got it too tight, and you could probably risk pulling it out of the back here. But the SLI is built pretty durably, it seems, and it doesn't seem like that would be a problem. So that's how the installation goes. Again, it's fairly painless. You don't need to disconnect those wires. It looks like you might need to, but definitely, I actually did the first time I installed it, and it was actually a lot more difficult. So just leave those wires connected, drop it in, and you're good to go.
So after getting it set up properly, things are pretty straightforward. At any time, it'll show you which gear you're in, and also acts as a tachometer. So you can actually eliminate the virtual tachometer that a lot of people use to free up some space on your monitor. My only personal problem with the G25 SLI is that due to how my wheel is mounted, which is very low, I can't always see the lights and gear indicator. When I redo my sim pod though, I'll mount the wheel higher, which will put it in view. For my sim pod, the standard SLI that's actually due out soon would be a better fit for my pod as it currently sits. Speaking of, here's more of the interview with Chris discussing the standalone SLI, as well as some new products coming down the pike from CXC.
We'll follow that up with the SLI, which is essentially the G25 SLI that is designed to be cockpit mounted, and mounted any way you want.
So then anybody could have it.
Right, exactly, and it will look slightly different. Actually, you'll probably have one of those for your review.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah. And we're going to follow that up with the G25 SLI Pro a little bit later, which will include 4 warning lights and 8 buttons.
Oh, cool. A lot of people have complained that the G25 didn't have enough buttons on it, so that'll be
Yeah, exactly. We've got a lot of customer feedback, and we value our customer feedback, so we decided to look into that prospect.
Now, I know weight's an issue on the G25 because it could affect
Always.
force feedback, so I would imagine that's going to have to be pretty lightweight.
That's true with any force feedback wheel. Anytime you start adding weight to the wheel, or even motion systems for that matter, it starts dulling the effects.
Yeah.
So we're exhaustive testers. So, that's one of the things we looked into when we built the G25 SLI, and again, we'll do that with the Pro. We don't really foresee a lot of weight being used, or a lot of weight being added, because we're going to use a lot of buttons, again, probably the same buttons that are on this, and they're pretty lightweight racing design buttons, So, I mean, everything we do is designed to either come off of a race car or look like it came off of a race car. So, and then a little bit later, we're going to do some steering wheel replacements for the G25 as well.
Oh, cool.
Continuing our whole G25 theme. And that'll allow people to change the steering wheels. We're probably going to allow them to change sizes with the express knowledge that, as you change size, you affect the force feedback.
Right.
But we'll also include replacement buttons for the 2 that you're losing when you replace the G25 wheel.
Oh, nice.
And along with our easy install, it'll be simple bolt-on, and the buttons will already have the factory Logitech plugs right on them, so it'll just be a plug-in procedure.
Oh,
no
nice.
soldering or cutting or wiring needed.
Very cool.
So,
Any idea on pricing on that stuff yet, or is it too early to tell?
way too early. That's far down the pipeline right now. The only thing I can talk about is that the SLI will be $109.99.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be $10 cheaper than that.
Really looking forward to checking out those new products when they become available. And we'll announce the release of each one here on SRT. Now we get to how the G25 SLI fared on our new hardware rating scale. We'll give scores of up to 106 different categories and then average a score at the end. The 6 categories are cost, design, durability, installation and instructions, plug-and playability, and usefulness. First up is cost. Coming in at $119, it's not something a sim racer will need to be competitive. Racers on a tight budget may spend that $119 towards a new video card, for instance. For the sim racer that's got just about everything he needs to be competitive and wants to add some more realism to his or her sim pod, it's definitely a great addition. The G25 SLI received a 78 on the cost scale, which was actually my lowest score across the board. The design? Very slick looking piece of hardware, especially the carbon fiber plates, and now with the 3 choices in color, it adds some more versatility to it. If the cable wasn't showing, it probably would have received a 100 in this category. But in talking to Chris at CXC Simulations, it would have been a nightmare to install, and I'd have to agree. Score here for design, 95. Next up, durability. My only concern on the durability would be the cord working its way loose from the tension. Other than that, it seems like a very nicely constructed unit with high quality components. 85 is my score here. Ease of installation and or instructions. The instructions were definitely good. The pictures may mislead you as they did me, because it shows the wheel coming completely off. If you follow the directions carefully and just handle things with care, you won't have any problems. Score here, 85. Plug-and playability. The G25 SLI is instantly recognized and installed in Windows. It would have received higher marks if the plugins were installed automatically. You need to be familiar with moving files around and where to drop them within the game folders. There is instructions though that come on the CD. Score here, 82. Usefulness? I think the G25 SLI can be useful, no doubt. Is it a must-have in the SimPod? I'd have to say no. Is it a great enhancement to add yet another level of realism? Absolutely. Is it or can it be a useful tool for sim racing? Yes, and for that I gave it an 80. Average score for the G25 SLI is an 84.1. Again, it comes in at $119 plus shipping and handling. Matter of fact, if you're interested in buying one, you can get one directly through our site. You can either click on the banner right on the front page or visit our affiliates page, and there's a banner that will take you there as well.
Next up, we got the Progressive Brake Mod from Nixim. Again, it's like a little eraser, a piece of rubber, and basically it goes inside the spring, inside the brake. And I was definitely hesitant to take apart a brand new set of pedals, just to install this thing. But once it got down to it, I checked the instructions out. It was about 16 screws total. Just make sure you follow the instructions, and it didn't go too bad. So why don't we check it out?
For starters, opening the pedal set will invalidate your Logitech warranty, just to give you a heads up. You as the owner have to decide whether you are prepared to fit this brake modification into your G25 because of that. This mod can only be used when the pedals are fitted into a strong racing chassis or securely fixed to the floor. Using this on the carpet alone will not work. The pedals without the mod work fine and will take a great deal of physical abuse compared to most budget pedal systems. Fitting this mod gives you a progressive feel and makes for much better threshold braking, and it also improves pedal response if you use heel and toe method. The fitting of this modification will increase the amount of stress placed on what is otherwise a standard pedal set. This must therefore increase the wear rate in the plastic bushings in the pressed metal pedals. To date, Nixim's not aware of any pedal set that has failed in any way because of their mod. The modification is made of a size and consistency of material that will allow the full range of pedal movement as it did before fitting the mod. So that being said, I have to admit that I was hesitant to take apart my new G25 pedals to install this mod. But for the show, and to have a better feeling brake, I went for it. Installation was easier than I expected as well. You need to take these 14 screws off the bottom of the pedals, along with the pedals themselves, which are attached with 2 Allen screws each. Once you have all the screws out, you take off the lid, being careful not to tug on any of the potentiometer wires. Once inside, you take apart the brake assembly with one bolt, slide the mod into the spring, put it all back together, and you're all set. Make sure you follow the instructions closely. It's said to route the potentiometer wires in its mounting point, and I didn't do that and ended up taking them back apart to make sure they were routed correctly. After that, put it all back together and put it back into position in your sim pod or at your desk, making sure that they're securely fastened. Next, go into your favorite game and set up the dead zone and sensitivity as noted in the directions. In Live for Speed, there wasn't a direct setting for these, so I fiddled with some sliders that seemed to make a difference. For R Factor, I set it to 80% sensitivity and a 50% dead zone, like recommended, and that felt good. Once that's all set, you're ready to give it a test drive. I noticed right off the bat a more progressive feel in the brake. I was able to hit the threshold of the tires breaking loose on a more consistent basis. There's the dead zone that you set in the game, and the first few inches of travel are light. Then you hit the piece of rubber and they come on progressively as you press harder. Definitely gives you the feel of a real brake. The new Nixim Progressive Brake Mod, in conjunction with the brake force feedback settings made for Race 07, made the braking experience definitely more intense. Okay, so where does the brake mod lie on the new hardware rating scale? Again, we're going to start with cost. Coming in at $20, this is definitely going to rank up there for the best bang for the buck in sim racing. 97, very high score here. Design, well, there's not much to it. It's a piece of rectangular rubber, or the material, I'm not sure what they're actually using here. Since you don't see it as an attachment to the G25, I'm going to give it an 80 in this category. Durability, my main concern on the durability is how this may affect the life of the brake pedal. I would imagine that it's going to put some extra pressure or load on some of the parts. 80 here as well. Installation, very easy to install. Make sure you follow the instructions on Nixim's website or you may be lost. Same score here as the SLI because it was a similar job, or took similar time I should say, 85. Plug and play. After installing the mod, you need to make some tweaks to the game you're playing to account for dead zones and sensitivity. You need to know where to find this in each game, and as a matter of fact, there was little, if any, support for Live for Speed that I could find in the forums or on the website. 80 in this category as well. Usefulness, very useful. It made a big difference in my threshold braking, which can directly relate to time being shaved on the course. 92 here. So the overall score here for the Nixim Progressive Brake Mod is an 85.6. If you're interested in the mod, go to nixim.com and it retails for just under $20. plus shipping and handling.